Audio. There you go. Audio is on. I forgot to press the button. Yes, so the audio is working. Hopefully you can now hear me and you can see me and we are all good to go. And the chat is now appearing with lots of people saying no audio. There you go. Apologies for that. It's been a busy afternoon. We've been playtesting a top secret game this afternoon. I don't know how top secret it is, but I haven't been given any permission to talk about it yet, but it was very good. We really enjoyed it. So hopefully, if they let me, I'll talk a bit more about that at some point in future. Anyway, enough about that. Welcome to the live Q&A for December 2024, the last one of the year. And as usual, we're going to be going through all of the questions that I've been asked in advance on the Board Game Geek Guild. Then I'm going to panic, realise how long I've been rabbiting on about nonsense, and we're then going to go to the live questions. So if you are a first-time viewer, then if you have a question for me, please put it in the chat, but start with the word question. If you don't start with the word question, it will get missed. So yeah, please start with the word question in capital letters, and then Vicky will transfer those questions into a document, which I will see on screen, and I will get to those in usually about 45 minutes. If you are watching this video back afterwards, or you're listening to this as a podcast, and you think, oh, I can never watch these videos live, how can I get questions to Paul in advance? Well, you need to join the Board Game Geek Guild, guild number 2258 on Board Game Geek, and usually about 4 or 5 days before these live Q&As, I will post a thread up there asking for questions in advance. And they're the questions that I am going to go through now. We also have an update on the contest. Somebody who is watching or listening to this will win £50 worth of games vouchers from Games Law. I will talk about that later on. Okay, so let's move on to the first question that I've been asked on the Guild from David Murray, old friend of mine who I've played lots of games with over the years. Have I seen and or played the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game? And if so, what are my thoughts on it? So I have seen it. I've seen it about a year and a half ago when somebody who I know who works for Asmodee UK showed me a prototype copy of it, and I got an early impression of it. Now, I wasn't allowed to talk about it at that point, but it was basically The Crew, but with hobbits, is a very, very brief summary of it. It takes the mechanism from The Crew. It is a cooperative trick-taking game, but it has a bit of a story to it as you're following the Fellowship through. And I said, this looks interesting. I'd be more than happy to cover this if you needed any content for it. And he said he'll pass that message upwards. And then, of course, never heard anything back from it. So I have seen a physical copy of the final version of the game, but I haven't played it. I haven't asked for a copy of it because at the moment I'm still running on a backlog of about 30 games, including some really good ones that I haven't covered on the channel yet. So yeah, I'm kind of in a bit of a trying to not ask for too many new games at the moment. But yes, I have heard about it and I haven't played it yet. If you have played it, let me know what you think about it. Next question from Gavin. What games do you feel really need a reprint at the moment? There's been a high number of profile reprints recently, and I wonder how many games are left. Personally, Gavin said he would love to see a reprint of Vanuatu. Now, I've not played that one myself. We have had a number of reprints, but maybe not recently. It's actually been happening for quite a few years now that we've had reprints. And recently, a publisher has announced that there's going to be a reprint of the best game from 2015, which in my opinion was Nippon from Nuno Bizarro Sentiero and Paolo Soledad. So yeah, more on that later on. But there's been a lot of reprints over the last X number of years. You know, we've had the Castles of Burgundy Special Edition. We're going to be having the Puerto Rico Special Edition. Taj Mahal got a new version. There are lots of reprints going on. I think El Grande got a reprint as well. I still don't own El Grande. I really should. So yeah, as for which games do I feel really need a reprint? It's a tricky one. None is the easy answer to that because there's so many games coming out all of the time that we don't need a reprint of some older games. But this is a question that I wish I hadn't have been playtesting this afternoon and I'd been able to look at in advance. What about you? What about you think? If you're watching videos live, let me know what you think. So a reprint from a game that's 5 or so years ago, 5 plus, you know what I'm saying. And if you're watching this back afterwards, leave me a comment. Which game from 5 or more years ago do you think needs a reprint? So I haven't answered your question, Gavin, but I am looking to the chat to come up with some answers, and I will give comments on those answers later on. Next question from Board Games James. What are your holiday traditions? We don't have that many as such. So what we do is we actually do Christmas Day on Christmas Eve and on Boxing Day. So the traditional have the family round, spend 8 hours cooking and, have drinks and play some games and things like that on Christmas Day. We don't do that. What we do is we go to Vicky's family for Christmas Eve. So the Christmas Eve at Vicky's parents' house is effectively the same as Christmas Day. A mum will have been cooking all day long and the family get together and we have a big meal and we have a chat, and we normally play some games like Just One and So Clover and things like that. So that happens on Christmas Eve. That is a tradition. But what we've been doing for the last few years is we've actually been having our Christmas meal on Boxing Day. And the reason for that is after we've been round at Vicky's parents all day on the Christmas Eve and then we get home late, the last thing Vicky wants to do is then spend 4 or 5 hours cooking a Christmas meal. So what she's doing is over the next week or over the next few days, she's actually going to be cooking what we're going to be having on Christmas Day, and we're going to be freezing it. So Christmas Day is supposed to be a day off. We're going to get up, we're going to have a nice breakfast, but it is supposed to be a day off, sitting around in front of TV, opening presents, doing jigsaws, watching TV. I've said watching TV before, haven't I? But anyway, and the food will be food that has been previously cooked, frozen, and we're just getting it out. You done that? We didn't do that today. It's in the oven right now. And then Boxing Day is the day where Vicky will be slaving away over a hot oven for most of the day, and I'll probably be doing some DIY jobs with my dad. But that's what we do. Between Christmas and New Year, Vicky isn't working. I've got a couple of videos that I want to get done, and we traditionally have friends round on New Year's Eve. But other than that, we don't have any other real traditions for Christmas. I'm not really that much of a Christmas person. I don't do cards or presents or anything like that. So, I'm not really that into Christmas. What game would you ask Santa for? Well, that is a good question. What game would I ask Santa for? In fact, I thought about this, and I unfortunately, because Vicky's family do get me something for Christmas, and this year I decided what I wanted for Christmas. Unfortunately, I decided it too late. But I'd like to probably complete my Marvel Champions collection, and it is missing quite a few packs and things like that. So I think as far as a game that I would ask Santa for, it would be for the Marvel Champions, the stuff that I'm missing, and I'm quite far behind on that. James is also asking, well, do I get stuck playing any mass market games like Monopoly over the holidays? Thankfully not. Thankfully, Vicky's family have come round to the fact that games like Just One and So Clover are brilliant. I mean, they are, and they're a lot of fun. I wouldn't really play much other games beyond that with them. Have done in the past, but now that we've got games like that, it's just so much better. So yeah, thankfully for me, I don't get roped into playing any of those games because it's not a great experience when you go back to those. What games do you wish you got as a kid or earlier in life? Well, the thing is, James, I'm getting on a bit now. The games that were around when I was a kid, we don't have anything like what we've got now. But if I was 10 years old now, or 15 or whatever, the games that we have coming out now, I would love to be able to have so much free time and to be able to play all of these amazing games. But the games that we had in the late 70s and early 80s were, generally speaking, not the kind of games that are still played now. Some of them are, Acquire, 18XX, things like that. Civilization. Not that I'd play Civilization again because it's a bit too long. But yes, I don't think there's any games that I got that I wish I'd have got as a kid. And what are your gaming goals for the new year? I haven't actually... Well, I have these gaming goals. I haven't sat down and decided that I was going to do them. But one thing that I did this year was I took a week off work around my birthday in July, and I played through a number of games that were just never going to get covered on the channel otherwise. And that was a really good week. And I can't believe it's been nearly 5-6 months since I did that. So I think my high level plan for next year is actually to work less and to take more days off work in order to just play more games and get through more games. Now, I'm only able to do that. First shout out for all of my Patreon supporters. If you're a Patreon supporter of mine, you make this possible. So a huge thank you to you. And if you're not a Patreon supporter and you're thinking of becoming one, then you can help me fulfill my dream of playing games. I know it's a hard life, but effectively, yes, a lot of the streams that I do on the channel are not sponsored in any way. So one thing that I said when I got back from Essen was that I would basically take a day a week off work in order to get through as many games as I can. And I haven't been able to do that because I've had other commitments and other things going on. But I will still be covering those new games into March. So I think my plan is continually to move forward, is to keep taking time off work in order to get these games played. I've got various other things. I want to start playing lots of other games that I have more, but I think that's the wish of everybody. Right, next question from Neil. Neil says, Imperium Classics failed on Kickstarter before getting an overhaul, at which point it then went straight to retail and subsequently thrived. Now, if you don't know about this, look it up. Look up Imperium on Kickstarter, because I will be honest, I'd forgotten about this. And I looked it up earlier. So Imperium, which we have Imperium Classics, Imperium Legends, Imperium Horizons, and Star Trek Captain's Chair, which is based on the Imperium mechanisms. Imperium is a hugely popular game, published by Osprey Games. It's pretty popular, it's pretty massive. And Star Trek Captain's Chair is a Star Trek re-implementation of the game system. But if you Google it and you go back, you will see that Imperium started out as a Kickstarter from NSKN, which morphed into Board and Dice. And it failed. The Kickstarter did not work. They didn't raise enough money. And it fizzled. So David and Nigel designed the Imperium system. It was originally going to be published by NSKN, and then obviously it didn't work out. And then there must have been some discussion behind the scenes, and they took the system and they sold it to Osprey, and Osprey are the people who published it. So, yeah. But anyway, Neil is saying, is there any moral there for other publishers? Should more games go straight to retail? Yes, is the easy answer to that. I have thoughts on Kickstarter myself. Neil accepts that huge mini-heavy games don't fit on a store and can't really do that, and nor can small independent works of passion. But what about things in between? So I've spoken many times about the fact that I think there are games on Kickstarter that shouldn't be on Kickstarter. I think Kickstarter should be there for the big miniature games that need a huge level of funding in order to make them happen. Or, as Neil says, small independent people who are trying to raise money for something. But there's so many games on Kickstarter right now that I think, personally, I don't think they should be on Kickstarter. I think they should be straight to retail. And what's really nice is that we have companies like Osprey Games that don't use Kickstarter. We have some companies that exclusively only use Kickstarter, and we have some companies that just don't use Kickstarter at all. And we have other companies that do a bit of both. I think Board and Dice do some games on Kickstarter and some games straight to retail. So I'm glad we haven't seen everybody convert over to Kickstarter, and I'm glad we still have some publishers going straight to retail. Because I think a lot of people have lost sight of the fact that you can actually go straight to retail and you can do well with a game. Next question from James. Do I think publishers are bringing out expansions too fast for games these days? Yes. Before people have had a chance to appreciate the base game and before the base game has had time to find its place in the market. Yes, absolutely. That's another thing that I think, personally, I think publishers are bringing out expansions too early. However, and my working in the industry gives me some appreciation of the reality of the situation, is that publishers need to bring those expansions out while it's still hot. And one thing that I found a little bit frustrating is going back to Kickstarter. So what you'll do is you'll have a game on Kickstarter and it'll come out and it'll do really well. And then as soon as it starts getting delivered, there's another version of it. Now, I'm saying this as a negative thing. Many of my clients use this model because it is the best model to work. And it's all about marketing. So as soon as a game comes out and starts to get into people's hands, you start seeing discussion about it on forums, you start seeing videos about it, you start seeing pictures about it. At that point, people are interested in it and they think, oh, I wonder if I can get this game. Oh, wait a minute, it's just gone back onto Kickstarter. Right, yes, that is how it works. If they waited another year then the buzz will have all died down. So it's just the reality of the situation that the best time to go back and launch your reprint Kickstarter is literally the same time as backers are starting to get their first versions of it. So that's just how it is. Right, moving on. Klaus says, where does Star Trek Captain's Chair rank versus Civolution in terms of your enjoyment and in terms of complexity? Oh, this is a good question. If I buy any 2024 game, I have narrowed my search down to these two. Buy both of them. For the record, for those people who don't know, Civolution from Deep Print Games, also Pegasus Spiel and designer Stefan Feld, is my number one favourite game of 2024. It is complex. My how to play video is 1 hour and 10 minutes long, but I do go into a lot of detail in it. But I think the game is phenomenal. It is my number one game of this year. I absolutely love it. And I taught it to some people on Sunday, just gone. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever tire of playing that game. It is definitely a very, very special game. Star Trek Captain's Chair, I think, is probably less complex in terms of the rules, but is more complex in terms of how you play the game, because you need to learn the interactions between the cards and you need to learn what your individual cards do. And it's extremely clever, and I absolutely love the game. And I am loving it more and more and more each time I play it. Whereas Civolution, I loved my first game of it. I was hooked. And I've enjoyed it more probably after 2 or 3 games, because at that point I'm comfortable with the rules and I'm not having to constantly look up rules. And I've enjoyed all of my games of it since. I played it about 10 or 12 times. But I'm not enjoying it more and more each time I play it. Whereas Captain's Chair, I am probably about 15 games in now, and I am still enjoying it more and more each time I play it. And that's because it has a steeper learning curve, but as I say, not with respect to the rules, with respect to this deck. Oh, now I see how this deck works. And playing, there's much more variability because you've got different captains and you can play against different other captains and things like that. So yeah, I really can't tell the difference. I can't tell you which one of those to buy. They are, I mean, Captain's Chair technically is not a 2024 game. If it was, it would be very, very high up there. It would be in my top 2 or top 3 games of this year. And I can tell you now, it's going to be up there in my top games of 2025 because, yeah, it's just fantastic and I'm really loving it. Yeah, so if you've narrowed your search down to those 2 games, then I approve of both of them. Next question from Brian. Wondered if I remembered to buy the Tim Tams. We didn't. We were going to do a Tim Tam Slam. Live. I'll tell you what. I'm supposed to be doing the vlog on Monday. Monday, 23rd of December is the day where I'm planning on filming and editing the vlog. And if we remember, at the weekend, I will go to Tesco. Other supermarkets are available. And I will buy some Tim Tams. And I do run in the vlog. Because that way, if I mess up and I get all of the tea up my nose or something, I can edit it out, which is a bit harder to do on a live stream. Next question from Chris Dearlove. Some designers produce games that are all or mostly similar. Other designers produce games that vary greatly. Limiting the question to big name designers, who do you think has the widest range? And who is the most consistent? So if you like one of their games, you will probably like most or even all of their other games. Well, first of all, a huge thank you to Chris for asking a question which I can actually answer easily without having to think too far ahead. So let's think of a designer who most of the time designs games of a similar weight, similar complexity, and similar feel. And that is Stefan Feld. Stefan Feld has done dozens and dozens of games. And whilst there will be some people who, love Aquasphere and don't like Castles of Burgundy or whatever, most of his medium weight Euros are, you can tell it's a Feld game. Very point salady, very much theme pasted on, and I don't say that as a negative thing because I love the games, but you know what you're going to get. You know you're going to get this 90-minute to 2 hour, 2.5 hour game. Some games are going to be a little bit more complex than others, but overall you're going to get the same sort of vibe. And then he comes out with Civolution, which kind of does break the mold a little bit, and also Cocapelli from a few years ago, which I've described as the least Stefan Feld game in my collection. Right. And then the most varied. There's two that come to mind, but the one that I'm going to pick for today is Martin Wallace. Martin is an absolute powerhouse in the board game industry, and he's still designing games now, and he's got multiple games published. And for me, Martin is one of, if not the most versatile designer that there is. I don't know how many games Martin has designed. And yes, you will find some similarities between, oh, that mechanism in this game is a little bit similar to this one. But overall, if you take Martin's portfolio, it's very varied. And I just covered, and check this out if you're interested, but last Friday, I covered Martin's new game that's been published by Ares Games called A Turner. And it was really good. And, you know, somebody joked and said, where are the trains? And it's like, yeah, it is kind of the running theme that, you know, oh, it's a Martin Wallace game, so it'll have trains in it and it'll have loans in it. And it doesn't. You know, Martin has done some extremely good train games, but he's done a lot of other very good games as well. Now, it has to be said, and apologies, Martin, if you are watching or listening to this, but Martin has designed some games over the years that are not great, but that's outshone by the number of great games that he's done. So yeah, for me, Martin is the most versatile in the wide range of different types of games that he has designed. Next question from Shyam. Says, I enjoy the content you put out on the channel. Best wishes to you and the channel. Thank you very much. Question is regards to board game content. What is the content that you think that people collectively put out more of, and what content is missing which you think should be covered more? For example, we'll have a lot of top 10 videos, yes, but less of a relook at last year's top 10 and re-ranking them. Yep, that's absolutely true. And I can tell you the reason why that is the case is that the average engagement and views on a top 10 video, I mean, I give all of my advertising revenue to charity, so I'm not driven by trying to get the most views on my videos. Yes, I would love more views on my videos, and yes, it is a little frustrating and a little personally demoralizing that I've been doing this and I've been doing this channel for 11 years, and there are new content creators popping up, and even ones that are 1 or 2 years old are getting literally 5 times as many views on their videos as I am. That you know, it's hard not to feel that I've kind of failed if new people are coming along and getting so many more views than me. But top 10 videos generally get a lot of views, and we are now reaching the point of the year where the top 10 games of 2024 are going to do really well. They are going to be massively popular videos. They're going to get tens of thousands of views, except for the ones that I do, which won't get that many. But that's just how it is. And people know that, and people who are making money from their advertising revenue, and therefore the more views that they get on their videos. I mean, everybody wants to make videos that are going to be popular. As I say, I do too, even though I have no financial incentive for doing that. But that's just the way it is. You will find that anybody, and you know, commendation to anybody who is doing this, to go back at last year's top 10, to look at them and to see, oh, were we right with these? Have these games now dropped off the radar? All credit to the people who are doing those videos, but they are simply not going to be as popular, even though they're a really good thing to do. So I think we are, for me, the question is, what is the content that you think people put more of and what content is missing? I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not a consumer of that much content myself. I have extremely limited amount of free time, and the only real time I do get is when I'm at the gym, where I will be either listening to an audiobook or watching something on, you know, Amazon or Disney Plus or something like that. I have very little time to consume content myself, and I produce the content that I kind of want to produce. I'm glad people watch it and enjoy it. Anyway, most hot games and by known designers are covered more, and a lot of new games by smaller publishers, which may not be good, do not get adequate coverage. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So yeah, what Chaim is saying is that if you can find a big new game that's coming out from a fairly big publisher, you will have most or a lot of the main channels covering it. You will find videos from, you know, 5, 6, 10 different content creators all covering the same game. And yet there is great games from small designers and small publishers which aren't getting looked at. And there's a reason for that. One of them is views, absolutely views. And again, if you look at the videos on my channel or even other people's channels, if it's a game which people don't know about, people aren't really going to watch it. People want to watch, and I'm saying this not as a consumer, but I'm thinking this is the way it works. You know, pick a hot game right now. Pick a game which is like #1 on the BGG hotness right now. That is the one that people want to watch. So that is the one that people who are driven by views, they are going to want to produce videos on. So for example, if you're a big content creator and you're saying, right, what game are we going to do? Shall we do, this game which is really popular and everybody's talking about it? Or shall I get my copy of Roads and Boats out from 15 years ago and let's play a game of that? Well, if you're driven by views, you've got to cover the hot games, and that's where we are, and that's why you'll find a lot of people chasing the current hotness in order to get more views. The other reason is small publishers won't have any kind of budget to pay for sponsored videos. So if you look at, big publishers or big Kickstarter games or something like that, you will find 5 or 6 sponsored videos. They have a marketing budget and they will pay these content creators, including me, in order to produce videos which will drive people to, hopefully, them selling more copies of the game. Small publishers, small designers, they haven't got the budget for that. So, and it's the reality of it, this being my job. If you are a designer and you are a publisher and you contact me and you say, Paul, I know we have never spoken before, but I've designed this game and I'm going on Kickstarter and I'd love you to do a playthrough video on your channel. And I say, well, okay, let's have a look at it, but there will be a cost involved because that is my job. That is what I do. And they say, oh, well, I'm a first-time designer. Sorry, we don't have a budget for that. Could you do it for free? And I can't really. Not to the. I mean, I have done with some games. There are a few exceptions, but on the whole, that's just how it is. And other content creators that are in the same position as me, where it is my job, they are very likely to, probably turn it down as well. I mean, that's just a blanket statement. I know, for example, Rado does a huge amount of videos and a lot of them are not sponsored in any way. So, you might get lucky. I'm not saying don't reach out to people, but yeah, that's I think how it is. Anyway, hopefully I've answered that question whilst also going off at 5 tangents. Next question from Phil Byrne. What are your thoughts on big box storage options for games? Phil says, cosmetically, they look great on the shelf and they store all of the content for a particular game. However, we are currently experiencing problems with these in that the games which have a big storage box are now getting played less at meetups because of their weight and size, other games are being chosen instead. This is really interesting, really interesting. And it's the reason why I didn't take Andromeda's Edge to the meetup on Sunday, because I was having to walk round to Emily's to get a lift and the box for Andromeda's Edge was just too big and too heavy. So the fact that I have this deluxe version of Andromeda's Edge in a nice big heavy box is great, but it was that was my reason for not taking it with me, which means it didn't get played. So that's a really interesting observation. Phil also says, due to the various stages we are at with certain games, there have been several instances where we have ended up using other smaller boxes to help us take out of these boxes only what's needed at the time, which feels so counterproductive, as of thinking a benefit of having one of these boxes would help in this. Okay, so I think what you're saying is you've got a big campaign game and you're going to a meetup and you know that you're at a particular stage of the campaign. So what you do is you decant parts of the big box into a smaller box in order to then take it with you to a games meetup, which means when you come back, you then have to put that back and recant. Is that a word? Which feels absolutely counterproductive. And the whole point of these big box storage solutions is to save time. Really interesting topic. Yeah. So Phil says it's now raised the question of whether these are really for us and spending the money on other games instead is a better investment. Yeah, I can absolutely see that. Nobody's mentioned that to me before. So that's a really interesting counterpoint. We all like the big games on our shelf. Oh, look at this big box. Look at this deluxe components. But actually, yeah, practicality. So Phil follows up by saying, do you think there is more of a need for games designers across the board when considering big box storage for their games to focus better on the layout of the internal storage, which would enable you to more easily take out what is only needed for a game session and is stored in a way that is portable as well? For example, the core game in one box and expansions in the others. Yes, absolutely. But the reality is I don't think publishers are going to spend time doing that. I mean, some might already. And if you've got some examples of these big box games where you could literally take a tray out because, oh, this is all the expansion stuff. We'll take the tray out. The one that comes to mind for me is Unconscious Mind. I have Unconscious Mind with all of the expansions and it's all in one box. But I seem to remember that the expansion stuff is in one tray. But to be honest, it's such a small amount, I probably wouldn't even bother taking it out. I'm not sure. But yeah, it is interesting. Anyway, next comment from Kenneth. What has been your most enjoyable video to film this year? It's got to be Civolution. It really has to be Civolution because it is my favourite game of the year. And filming and editing that video was a huge amount of work. I think it worked out at about 80 to 90 hours in total. But I'm not going to say I loved every single minute of it because at the end of the day, it's a job. But filming a video for a game that I absolutely love and writing the script for a game which I know like the back of my hand. I mean, I wrote 95% of the script for that game, for that video, if not more, from memory. I mean, it took me 3 days to write the script. It was about 16 hours work to write the script. But I did most of it from memory. And yeah, working on a game, which I love so much, is so very fulfilling and rewarding. It's just, going back to what I was saying earlier, it's a little disappointing when that video comes out and then literally 2 days later, somebody creates some kind of video where they just rant about it, complaining about everything, them sat in front of a webcam, not really put together, took them 10 minutes to do, and it suddenly, within a day, it's got twice as many views as my video. That's how it is. People want to watch ranting, angry men on cameras, but that's it. Anyway, Jenny says, if a game has a reprint or re-release in 2024 with only artwork changes, so no rule changes, but only artwork changes, and then Paul plays this second edition for the first time in 2024, does it qualify to be classed as a 2024 game? So specifically, I think what Jenny's asking is, recently, like last week or the week before, I've put out a poll to my Patreon supporters because one of the videos that I'm going to be doing, and I haven't really announced it yet, but there will be a live stream happening on, what date's the 27th of December? What day? What day of the week is it? Yeah, what date is the 27th of December? Where's the 27th of December? Friday. Friday, 27th of December, probably 8 o'clock UK time. Me and Derek from Kanji Studios, we are doing a live stream of my Patreon supporters' top 10 games of 2024. So not my top 10 games, not Derek's top 10 games, but my Patreon supporters. So if you are a Patreon supporter of mine at producer level or higher, I think it's producer level or higher. No, it's even supporter level or higher. You should have had an email and I have asked you for what your favourite games are. And I think what Jenny is saying is, if a game came out this year and the only thing that changed was artwork, does it qualify for a best game of 2024? Yes. In my mind, yes. If it got a reprint and it had a new edition of the game, even though there were no rules changes, for me, that's fine. Next question from Arnold. Are you dreaming about taking a galactic cruise yet? And how is the how to play video coming along? So thank you for asking. I am literally in the middle of creating the how to play video for Galactic Cruise. I say literally. I'm not literally in the middle of it. I'm probably about a third of the way through. I've written the script. Script is all done. I have done 90% of the filming. I ran out of time yesterday, but I will be finishing that tomorrow. So my plan for tomorrow is to set everything up again and film the last 10% of the still images. And then the next stage is editing. Now, the problem is we've got Christmas. So I'm busy all day Friday. Then I'm going to be busy all over the weekend with my dad. And then next week we're out on Monday. Monday is Christmas Eve. Tuesday is Christmas Day. Is that right? No. Oh, I'm doing the vlog on Monday. That's it. I'm doing the vlog on Monday. Christmas Eve is Tuesday. Christmas Day is Wednesday. Boxing Day is Thursday. And then I've got these other things going on Friday. Basically, what I'm saying to you is I might not be able to start editing this video until the new year. I've got so many things planned over the next, 7 to 10 days that, yeah. But as soon as Vicky goes back to work in January, that's it. I'm going to be starting to edit that video. It should be ready, early access for patron supporters around the middle of January. And you guys will help me check the video and make sure it's all okay. But the plan is to have the video done by the end of January, which should be around the time that backers might start getting their copies of it. It's either going to be very end of January or early February, something like that. Don't hold me to that if your copy turns up late. Next question from Miguel. As we approach the end of the year, if you take a moment to reflect, what are you most grateful about for 2024? One of the things I'm most thankful for is attending GridCon for the first time. Yeah, it was great to see you there. Thank you for playing a key role in making that happen. No problem. So, what am I most grateful for 2024? This might sound a bit cheesy, but it is my patron supporters. If we talk about my work, my channel, and the games and everything else, the thing that I am most thankful for is the patron supporters, because if we imagine a world where I don't have a Patreon campaign and I don't have the support that I do, then essentially that will be like I was it 6 years ago now? Yeah, I think the Patreon was about 6 years ago that I started it. So if we look at my first 5 years of gaming rules before the Patreon support, all I was doing was paid content, and the unpaid content, it was literally losing money. So I used to do these review videos, and I would do the vlogs, and I would do these Q&As, and I would do all of this stuff. But it always felt weird because I was literally having to, take time off work, which I would get paid for, in order to produce the content. Now, if you're a content creator and you think, well, that's just how it is, you shouldn't be getting paid for every video you do. I mean, some people do, but you shouldn't, and you should be building up your channel. But again, and I don't want to harp on about this too much, but I think one of the driving forces of becoming a content creator is the hope that you will become big and you will become successful, and your videos will get so many views that you can basically live off the ad revenue. I mean, we have board game content creators that are getting, on average, 100 to 150,000 views per video that they do. They are the people that have made it big time, and they put in a lot of hard work and years of effort in order to get there, and congratulations to them for getting there. They can now live off, I mean, they've probably got a Patreon campaign as well, but they can live off the advertising revenue. I mean, we donate about $6,000 a year. So we probably earn about £6,000 a year in advertising revenue. And that's for me with my channel, which, as I say, does not get 150,000 views per video. So the Patreon support, what it does is it gives me the financial flexibility to do the fun stuff. So all of those days where I am taking days off from my paid job to do, canal playthrough or whatever, and there will be lots more of that coming up in the new year. When I took a week off in July, I literally took a week off work. I didn't get paid for that week. What I could have done is not done that, and I could have worked for the week and I would have got paid, but I didn't. I took the week off from my paid job in order to produce more content. And at no point in the last year, or probably even in the last 2 or 3 years, have I had any of those negative feelings that I used to have when I started Gaming Rules of, oh, I've decided that I'm going to do this video. This video is going to take me a day and a half. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm literally losing money by doing that. I don't have that now. So I have, not only do I not have any of those negative feelings, it's actually a positive thing. When I'm taking time off work in order to produce non-sponsored videos, I'm enjoying it a lot more. And it's just great. And I'm only able to do that thanks to the Patreon supporters. So yeah, that's probably the thing that I am most thankful for. Miguel also said, you mentioned that as an alternative to creating your top 10 of 2023, you considered redoing another live pub meeple ranking of your most loved games, although much more streamlined than the first time. Yeah, so Miguel is referring to the fact that I think it was 2 years ago. It was either 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And these videos are on the channel if you are interested in watching them. I rated my entire collection. And I used the PubMePull ranking system. And it was a series of 3 live streams, which I did between Christmas and New Year. And yeah, I basically ranked my entire collection. And I don't know, I can't remember how long it took, but it was forever. And it was fun, and we got lots of people watching and lots of engagement. But my plan is to do something similar to that, but as you say, with a very, very cut down version. And it is one of the videos that I'm hoping to be able to get done between Christmas and New Year this year. But I want to get the other ones done first. How are we with the Board Game Geek questions? Oh, we've still got quite a few. Right, let's have a bit of a pause. We're going to be here for a late one today. Vicky's going to need to go and get some food. You go and get some food. Right, contest time. So every month, as part of these live Q&As, I give away £50 worth of games vouchers to Games Law. Now, £25 of that comes from Games Law, and £25 of that comes from myself. So you could win £50 worth of games vouchers. And all you need to do is you need to click on the link, which is in the description of this video, and it's going into the chat now. And you need to put in your name, your email address, and you need to put in the secret word. What can the secret word be? So the secret word can be the word clock, and I can't tell you why. It might have something to do with the secret playtest that we did this afternoon. So the secret word is clock, and if the publisher gives me permission to talk about the game that we played this afternoon, then you will know why. So that is the contest. The winner from last month's contest, which I did the draw earlier on today, was one of my patron supporters, which is Tobias Johannesson. So congratulations, Tobias. I've already spoken to you, sent you an email. You've got all the details. So if you are a patron supporter of mine and you enter the contest, there is more chance that you will win, because without your support, I can't do these videos. So I give my patron supporters a slight bias on the weighting of the draws out of the hat. Last month, it wasn't a patron supporter that won. This month it is. So it is fair. Anybody can win. But if you are a patron supporter, you get 2 entries into the hat. Right. Liz has got a question. And I did see this question earlier on today, which is kind of why I mentioned it earlier on. Liz says, I recently played Marvel Champions for the first time and found that my tutorial and playthrough video was quite helpful in getting started. Excellent, thank you. I'm wondering if you still enjoy playing Marvel Champions, and what is it about the game that you enjoy the most? Do I have a favourite superhero or villain? So, Marvel Champions is one of those games where I am fighting against the negative feelings that I have about the game. Because, to be honest, Marvel Champions is very likely in my top 10 games of all time. I absolutely love the game, but I don't get to play it anywhere near as much as I like. In fact, in the last 15 months, or at least in the last year, I've played it once, and that was with Rick on Tabletop Simulator when I was too tired to go round to his one night. And that is a disgrace, to quote a former UK Prime Minister. It's an amazing game, and I absolutely love the game. And part of my drive to say, oh, maybe I should have asked Santa Claus for some Marvel Champions packs to help fill out my collection, is that it might give me the drive to actually play it more. The reality is I don't have the time, but it is a phenomenal game. I love the game. What is it that I enjoy the most about it? One of the things that I enjoy the most about it is I have a lot of thoughts, and I have a lot of personal opinions on card games. I mean, I've been playing card games now for over 25 years. I started playing Magic the Gathering in like 96, 97, I think it was. And I have played a lot of CCGs, TCGs, LCGs, a lot of them over the years. And I have very specific thoughts on what I think makes a good game and what makes not a good game. And for me, small decks and Marvel Champions, you have 30 card decks. Games where you can play multiple cards from your hand on your turn, and you draw back up to your hand size. and there are mechanisms in the game for cycling through your deck, that ticks all of my boxes, because there's nothing worse for me than, and let's go back to Magic the Gathering. Right, you've got a 60 card deck, and in most games you're only going to see a quarter of those cards. Well, what's the point in the other 45 cards? So any card game, I'm going to go out and I'm going to upset some people here. Any card game where your default deck size is more than 40, and where the core draw mechanism is draw one card per turn with no real easy way to draw extra cards, I'm not interested. I think your game is flawed. Absolutely flawed. Netrunner at least has a way where you can draw extra cards. Marvel Champion is for me the best of those. Plus the fact that it really, I mean, I love the Marvel films, but when I'm playing Marvel Champions, it is so thematic. It actually feels like you're playing in an episode of something, and I just love the way that all of the mechanisms work together. So it's not just the deck part of the game, it's the rest of the game. It's the way that it works. It is that and Arkham Horror card game are two of my favourite card games of all time. Not mentioning Star Trek Captain's Chair, which is amazing, but a different kettle of fish. Do I have a favourite superhero or villain? No, I don't. I'll play pretty much anything. Next question from Stuart. Were you surprised that Civolution is a Stefan Feld game in terms of the setting and the game mechanics? Yes, and in fact, so here's what I did. The first time I played Civolution, I went to the publisher and I asked them for the honest answer of really how much of this game is Stefan Feld. And the reason I asked that question is, again, working in the industry gives me a little bit of an insight on how things work. And sometimes you will see the name of a designer on the box, and that designer might have only had a small part to do with the game. So I'm gonna pick Martin Wallace as a designer. Right. Now, Martin, as I've mentioned earlier on, has designed dozens and dozens and dozens of games. Some games that Martin designed, he pitches to publishers, and the publisher says, yes, we'd like that game, here's some money, and we'll give you royalties and do everything else, but it's our game, and we're going to retheme it, and we're going to develop it. And then what they do is they take the game, and they literally retheme it. It's a completely different theme, and they will do maybe 2-3 years of development on the game. And in that time, Martin hasn't really been involved in the game. Martin's done his bit. He's sold them the game, and that's it. And then the game comes out, and it's got Martin's name on the box. And I'm just using Martin as an example. This applies to other designers as well. Except we as game buyers, we get the game and we go, oh, here's a new game. Oh, by Martin Wallace. And we think Martin chose the theme. Martin did the artwork. Martin wrote the rule book. Martin printed these on his printer at home. No. Sometimes the name of the designer on the box actually doesn't have that much to do with the game itself. So when I played Civolution for the first time and I went, okay, I can see that there are parts of this that are very much Stefan Feld, but this really doesn't feel like a Stefan Feld game because it is so much more complex and there's so many more things going on. So I spoke to them and I said, be honest with me, was this just based on an idea from Stefan Feld and then the development team did most of the hard work on the game? And they said, no, actually, a very high percentage of this game is Stefan Feld's design. So it did surprise me, and I was very pleased with the result. Anyway, Jonathan says, thoughts on the new Craftwagon relative to other Kramer titles? I've recently covered the new edition of Craftwagon on the channel from a couple of weeks ago. Go and check it out if you're interested. And it's by Matthias Kramer. It's a reprint of a second edition of an old game, Craftwagon, from about 9 years ago. But yeah, you'd have to remind me of some other Wolfgang Kramer games. Does it stand out, or is it one of the many excellent midweight classic Euros? It is one of the excellent middleweight classic Euros. Yeah, Craftwagon is a very, very good middleweight classic Euros. Now, what made it stand out for us is that you can play a 4-player game of it in about 90 minutes. And it really had some interesting, crunchy decisions and some tense moments. So yeah, I highly recommend Craft Dragon from Matthias Kramer, but I'm not sure where it stands out in relation to the other Matthias Kramer games. I just know it was it was good. Next question from Kat. Hi Paul and Mrs. Paul. I know it's impossible to cover every single game in existence, unfortunately, but I would have thought you would be covering at least some of the games from Garphill. My apologies if you have. Yes, I have. Have I got a favourite? So, Garphill Games is one of those publishers that if I had more time, I would be doing more videos of theirs. I am a huge fan of Shem Phillips and the rest of the team over at Garphill Games. I have a good relationship with them. They are fans of mine. They like what I do. I've even had a conversation with Shem, and he said, Paul, anytime you want to do any videos for us, just let us know. And I did one earlier this year. I did the how to play video for Ezra and Nehemiah. And Shem said, I'd like you to do one more by the end of the year. And I said, I'd like to do one more by the end of the year. Unfortunately, the way things panned out, we are now in December, and I am slightly behind schedule on the Galactic Cruise video. So it's a question of, like everything else, it's a question of time. I want to do more of his videos for his games. He wants me to do more videos, and I would love to. So going back to one of my plans for next year, I think I need to contact Shem. In January, I need to contact Shem and say, right, let's have a look at my plan for the year. And if it's possible that I can fit in another of your videos, then let's do it. Either a how to play video or a playthrough video or something like that. I definitely do want to play more. As for a favourite, I've played Architects of the West Kingdom. I've played Paladins of the West Kingdom. I've played Viscounts of the West Kingdom. I've played Ezra and Nehemiah. And I've played Hadrian's Wall, which is not one of his designs, but it is one of his. I'm not sure which one is my favourite, actually. It might be Ezra and Nehemiah because I played that more, so I'm more comfortable with that game. But I also did like Viscounts. I would have liked Paladins, but I didn't like the random card draw, which I've seen they are now selling a special pack to help fix that randomness. But I did enjoy Paladins, and I also quite liked Architects. So yeah, I've liked the ones that I've played, but I've not played them enough to know whether I've got a favourite. Next question from Frank, very simple. It says, Christmas and the holidays, with or without playing games? If I am playing games, which ones? Well, I will be playing either Just One or So Clover, or what was the other one we mentioned? Dorf Romantic, maybe? With your parents? It will probably be Just One and So Clover, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to turn up each Christmas and go, oh, I've got another new game for us to learn, when we get so much enjoyment from playing Just One and So Clover that it's like, I don't think they're ever going to get bored of them. So yeah, it'll probably be those. Games that me and Vicky are probably going to try and play a bit of together with me dad while he's here is we played the first mission from War Story Occupied France, which is definitely not a Christmas game, but it is a choose your own adventure style cooperative game. And we've played mission 1 and I was extremely impressed. Like, very, very, very impressed by this game. So we might try and play missions 2 and 3 while my daddy's still down here with us. But other than that, me and Vicky want to spend a bit of time together. We've only got like 2 or 3 days between Christmas and New Year. And we want to go out and do a bit of geocaching. So game playing is not high on the list. But if we were to play a game together, would it be exit puzzles? Yeah, we've still got a whole bunch of exit games that we haven't done, and we've got that Crime Untold that we haven't finished, and we've got the exit calendar. So it'll be some puzzly escape room style games. That's what we're going to be doing. Next question also from Frank, which is related to Galactic Cruise. Which projects cause the most fun and the most stress? Well, I have to say, working on the How to Play video for Civolution and for Galactic Cruise has not been stressful. Not like I used to have the stress when I was creating a video, because I know both games very, very well, and because I am a huge fan of both of those games. Working on the games was time consuming, and the only stress was because I ended up getting behind schedule, and then I was rushing and panicking a little bit. And the Civolution video I ended up getting out about a week after I'd planned to. They never gave me any deadline, so it was my own my own stress caused by me setting my own deadline on when I wanted to get it out. And I haven't finished the Galactic Cruise one yet. So I think Civolution was probably more fun, but they've both been about the same. I mean, yeah, this week, writing and filming the Galactic Cruise video has been enjoyable. And it's very few people who can say that doing a job is as enjoyable as that. But I feel very proud and privileged that they asked me to create these videos for these games, because these games, they are really, really good games. Next question from Vekweth. Roasted or boiled sprouts? Well, it's an interesting question, because traditionally I have put up with sprouts. I know you're supposed to have them at Christmas, and I used to hate them years ago, but then I stopped hating them and I just kind of accepted them. But about 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago at your parents'? I think it was 2 years ago at your parents'. It wasn't you. You did them once we'd found out. Was it you that did them? Vicky thinks it's her that did them. I don't think it is. But anyway, I had roasted sprouts with a bit of garlic, is it? Was it you? Oh, I'm really sorry. Vicky's crying. Are you? I think we had them at your mum and dad's, and I said, these are really, really nice. How do you do them? And she said, I roasted them with a bit of garlic. So then, well, no, I know you've done them for the last couple of years, but you didn't used to do them like that, but now you do. Anyway, so roasted is the answer. Right, well, that's me in trouble tonight. So, next question from Jonathan. Which games from the past few years do you think you will still be playing in 5 years' time? We cycle through games so quickly, and there are not many board games as opposed to card games that hit the table regularly. Well, it's the same with card games. So yeah, I mean, this is a big question. This is an answer for people watching in the chat as well. In fact, let's put this as well. Let's put this as an answer in the chat, and we're going to put it on Board Game Geek as well. So if Chrissy is still here, no, Chrissy's had to leave. Right, I will do this later on tonight. So, on my guild, on Board Game Geek, there will be a question appearing at some point tonight. And it's a question which I'd like you to just take a moment to go and answer on the guild. And if you are not a member of the guild, head on over there. It is guild number 2258. Vicky will put a link to it in the chat. There is a link to it in the description of the video. When you join the guild, make sure you click the subscribe button, because otherwise you won't realise there's actually anything going on. Anyway, tonight I will post this question from Jonathan, which is, which games from the past few years will you still be playing in 5 years? The first one that comes to mind for me, and I'm not going to say will I still be playing in 5 years, but I think will still be being played in 5 years. Nucleum is one of the ones that's sprung to mind. I think Nucleum is a game which in 5 years' time you will still find people playing it. That is the first one that came to mind for me, but there are probably many others. Yeah, I mean, maybe even Civolution as well. Yeah, and maybe Voidfall. I mean, I'm picking the big ones here, but it's with where we are in the board game hobby, so many games coming out, so many games coming and going. Some games come and go within a month. Within 1 to 2 months, nobody's talking about them. That's just the reality of the saturated market that we are in. And yet there are other games that are coming out that are phenomenal and are still going to be played in 5 years' time. So there you go. Now we're looking for specifically ones that have been released in the last few years. And I'm going to class that as 3. So I'm looking for games that have been released in the last 3 years. Which ones of those are still going to be playing in 5 years? Because Brian says Ark Nova, and I think Ark Nova was 2021. Richard is saying Ark Nova as well. Everybody's saying Ark Nova. Yes. Okay. Vanyo says chocolate or vanilla. Now, vanilla if it's proper vanilla. Because if you have proper vanilla with really, really strong taste, using vanilla pods, seeds, whatever, then that's amazing. But and there's nothing worse than like a cheap chocolate, you know, that fake kind of chocolate. But yeah, proper vanilla would be chocolate for me. And the final question from Brian, who actually missed the cutoff off the guild, but I've let you in anyway, which is Nippon is being re-implemented. So I mentioned this earlier on. 2015, the best game of the year was a game called Nippon. and it's being re-implemented. There is going to be a new edition of the game with a new publisher. Is there any interest in a video from me? I have contacted the publisher. I have introduced myself. I have told them that I did the official How to Play video back in 2015, and I would love to do some kind of coverage of the new version. So, yes, hopefully I will. Right, next, live questions. We've been 1 hour and 5 minutes already, so how many live questions do we have? Okay, right. I know it's early, but I'm going to say no more questions, please, because otherwise we will both starve to death before the end of this Q&A, and nobody wants to see that. So we are now going to go... Oh my God, there's loads. Oh no, we're going to be here forever. Right, no more questions, please. Thank you very much to everybody who has asked these questions. I will try and be quick. Carl, have you got any updates on the development of Great Western Chicken by Alexander Pfister? I know almost nothing about this game, other than apparently there is a game called Great Western Chicken by Alexander Pfister. It's on my list of things to do because I think Lookout Games now have the license for the Great Western Trail series, and I have a good relationship with Lookout Games, so I need to contact them and see what's going on. Carl also asked, have I played through any of the scenarios of the new Roads and Boats book? No, unfortunately not. I have the scenario book for Roads and Boats, and I haven't. It got looked at and it's got put away. It's on my list of things to do. Will you be playing any games on Christmas Day? Oh no, we probably will. We'll probably play either Dorf Romantic or War Story. I mean, it's a perfect Christmas Day game. We might do, we might not. It's up to Vicky, really. I'd be up for it, but I'm also more than happy just having a day. I might play some solo games, because if we're sat downstairs with the TV on, then I might sit there, depending on what we're watching. I might paint or I might play a solo game. But other than that, no. Next question from Richard. With more and more games being published and little sign that the target audience for them can grow indefinitely, 2025, will 2025 be the year that the bubble bursts? Or are you being a pessimist? You're being a pessimist, Richard. I don't think 2025 is the year that the bubble will burst. I think, I said years ago the bubble's got to burst on Kickstarter, and it hasn't. And we're still seeing games make 3 million on Kickstarter that are terrible games, but that's just where we are. So, yeah, I don't think the bubble is going to burst in 2015. Compy says, what is your favourite Christmas movie? I don't think I have a favourite Christmas movie. Throw some Christmas movies at me that I might know. No. I'm not really a Christmas movie type person. Yeah, I mean, Die Hard is the obvious answer, but no, I don't think I do. No, there isn't anything that I think, oh yeah, it's Christmas, I'll watch a Christmas movie. So, Groundhog Day is not Christmas, is it? No. Right, okay. Nope, not sure. Brian has asked this question there. Well, there you go. That's that one. Favourite Christmas or a game that takes place in the winter stroke cold? Ooh. So, favourite Christmas game. I don't think I own a Christmas game, apart from the Exit Advent calendars. But a favourite game that takes place in the winter or cold. Well, how many are there? There is Legends of Andor Eternal Frost. There is Frosthaven. There is Frostpunk. Well, there's Endless Winter. Probably Frostpunk. Yeah, probably Frostpunk. I mean, that is something that takes place in the cold. Luna Bear says, can you talk about your relationship with Edward from Heavy Cardboard? Apparently my channel name came up in a recent Heavy Cardboard Q&A, and Edward insinuated that there were issues between us. Only that Edward and I used to be friends and we used to chat. But Edward's personal situation, Edward split from his wife and he got together with somebody else, and the person who he got together with, yeah, let's just say that they were very inappropriate and attacked me on social media very, very aggressively and completely over the top, to the point where everybody told them that they were completely over the top and they were being horrible, and they deleted their posts and then denied it. And that, yeah, I mean, you know, that wasn't Edward. It wasn't him, but he obviously has a very close relationship with that person, and that kind of meant that, yeah, I felt uncomfortable, and so we haven't fallen out because we haven't really discussed anything much since then. I think we've spoken once. I think the fact that I also don't use Twitter, and Edward doesn't use Facebook, so he doesn't use Messenger, which is what I use for primary methods of communication with people. And Edward doesn't use that, and he uses Twitter. I don't want anything to do with Twitter, so we didn't have, an instant way of chatting. But I think the fact that there was this extra person involved, I think that for me makes it, I don't want anything to do with this person, and they were or are a part of Heavy Cardboard. So anyway, next question from Bobby. I'm planning to have a pet, either a cat or a dog. How do you manage your home and games so that Thor and Loki won't damage them? We are quite lucky, actually, in the traditional expectation of cats jumping on tables and knocking components everywhere. Ours don't. We are very fortunate that our cats, generally speaking, don't jump on tables and start batting the components around. It's quite funny, but when we leave a game downstairs on the table, sometimes Thor will go downstairs and we'll find Thor sat on the middle of the table, and he's stretched his legs, and he will have moved some of the components around. So he never does that if there isn't a game there. He doesn't jump up on the dining room table, but if there's a game there, and he'll do it here sometimes on this table as well, he will jump on here and he'll sit there and he'll just sort of move things around like he knows that he's been a bit naughty. But yeah, we don't need to do anything with that. The only thing we need to be careful about is food, and leaving any food out, because otherwise they'll have it. Rick is asking, is the Kirk deck confirmed? Rick is referring to Star Trek Captain's Chair, which is being released very, very soon, and it has 6 captains in the box, and not one of them is Kirk, and that has upset a lot of people who are being very childish and very irrational, and rating the game a 1 on BGG and saying I'm never going to play this game because it doesn't have Kirk in it and it has Michael Burnham in it. So people who are not true Star Trek fans because they don't like a particular thing about Star Trek, so they are basically being, extremely aggressive about a game that has that. Right, so David's in the chat. There you go. He's asking, what is your favourite episode involving Shran? Well, David, as well as I, that I can't remember anything about Star Trek Enterprise apart from it's called Enterprise and the captain was Archer. I watched Enterprise when it came out, and I am currently starting to rewatch season 3. So yes, I don't know. I will probably have to go and watch the Shran related episodes. So I don't have a favourite one at the moment. Next question from Fool's Top is also related to Captain's Chair. Would I be able to enjoy Captain's Chair if I'm not familiar with the Star Trek universe, who loves Imperium and loves sci-fi in general? And my answer to that is yes, I think so. And David always tells me that one of the playtesters of the game, who's played the game like 200 times, has never seen a single episode of Star Trek. So my answer is, if you like the Imperium games and you like sci-fi in general, then I think you will enjoy Captain's Chair. I think you will enjoy Captain's Chair more if you know Star Trek, but you don't need to know Star Trek in order to play the game. You will hopefully still enjoy the game. The thing that I think some people think, if I don't like Star Trek, I'm not going to understand what the game's going to do. As long as you can understand that spaceships can travel from one place to another by using warp drive, and it moves a little counter from one place to another. Yep. And you can beam cards to ships, which is basically the equivalent of garrisoning them, and you can send away teams down to planets. And generally speaking, you need to have a ship in orbit in order to send the away team down to the planet, or some other abilities let you to do it without that. As long as you know that, then you'll be fine. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. Ricky's asking, where is our Fighting Fantasy book? Yeah, the plan was to do one this year because I didn't do one last year. But again, I looked at all of the things that I wanted to do between Christmas and New Year, and it was already 5 videos, and I'm only going to get probably 3 of those done, and the other 2 are either never going to get done or or might get done in January. So yeah, unfortunately, no Fighting Fantasy book this year. Yeah, maybe I'll do one because Christmas and New Year is generally a bad time for doing those things. Maybe I'll do one around my birthday. Favorite Christmas food? Ooh, what is my favorite Christmas food? Probably those roasted Brussels sprouts that your mum makes. I'm digging my hole. Favorite Christmas food? I mean, I'm not a big fan of turkey. Trifle. Trifle Christmas food? Oh, okay. It's to Vicky. Yeah, trifle. Yeah, I mean, I do like a roast dinner, but I like a roast dinner all of the time. So it's got to be the honey roasted parsnips. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of pigs in blankets because I'm not keen on bacon. But anyway, let's go with honey roasted parsnips. Next question from Filippo. As a Chip Theory Games and Too Many Bones fanboy, cannot wait to receive Elder Scrolls Pledge. Still one of your favourites this year. Absolutely. That, Captain's Chair and Civolution would be my favourite 3 games of 2024. But Elder Scrolls is technically a 2025 game. Oh, sorry, Galactic Cruise. Galactic Cruise, Civolution, Elder Scrolls, Betrayal of the Second Era, and Star Trek Captain's Chair are probably the 4 best games that I have played this year. But Captain's Chair, not out till 2025. Galactic Cruise, 2025. Elder Scrolls, 2025. So those 3 are all classed as 2025 games. I tell you what, those games are all fantastic. They are currently my top 3 games of 2025, and it's going to take a lot for something to beat them. Rashevsky says, when can we expect the best games of 2024? So on the 27th of December, there will be a live stream of my patron supporters' top 10 games of 2024. One of the videos that I will be planning to do between Christmas and New Year is my top 10 games of 2023, because I always like to do mine a year after everybody else. So when can we expect the best games of 2024? Sometime in 2025. I actually wanted to do my top 10 of 2023 in the summer. I had originally planned to do it in the summer, and then time just got away with me. Next question from Drone Explorer. What is your favourite Take That game or games with lots of player interaction? Well, it's really hard not to say Star Trek Captain's Chair because, well, first of all, let's differentiate between 2-player games and multiplayer games. So multiplayer games with 3 or more players with a high level of player interaction, I don't generally like those games. There are a few exceptions, but generally speaking, I do not like Take That as a mechanism in a game with 3 or more players. In a game with 2 players, I am absolutely fine with it and I have absolutely no issues whatsoever. Now, I always prefer interaction, which is not going to destroy somebody else's plans. So, for example, if I'm playing a Euro game and I'm playing it competitively and I'm playing it 2-player, and I've got a card which burns down your building and therefore screws up your entire plan of what you were going to do on your turn, I'm not that comfortable with that. But in card games, such as, well, all of the card games that are out there that are competitive card games, I have no problem with it whatsoever. And Star Trek Captain's Chair, there can be, it's not absolutely full on fighting each other, but depending on which captain you're using and depending on which angle you're going for, there are definitely Take That elements in that game, and they are brilliant and they work really well. So at the moment, my favourite game which has a Take That element is definitely Captain's Chair. Am I planning on doing a tutorial and playthrough of Ostia? No, I'm not. I think Ostia came out like a year or 2 ago. Vaguely remember it, but no, I have no plans to do that. Rosemary is asking, what is your favourite cooperative party game that's not a word game? Can I just remove the that's not a word game? Because then it's easy. Favourite cooperative party game that's not a word game. So we've never played it, but the cooperative version of Secret Identity. We've only ever played Secret Identity as a competitive game, but there is a cooperative version of it. Although that's got words in it. Oh, I don't know. I might need some help with finding a cooperative party game that isn't a word game. So yeah, I don't know. I can't think of one. it's just word games, isn't it? Cat in the Box is not cooperative. No, can't think of one. If you can think of a cooperative party game that isn't a word game, let me know. Board Game James says Flip 7. Never played it. Brett says Undaunted Callisto. I think that might be a different answer to a different question. Right. I Like Binky says, what is Vlaada Chvátil up to, and will he ever release another heavy game again? Oh, right. Vlaada Chvátil has been teasing me and equally in the same measure disappointing me for the last 6 or 7 years now. Vlaada has a different life than he used to. When we all fell in love with him when he was designing Through the Ages and Dungeon Lords and Mage Knight and things like that. But for the last 7 years or so, his focus has been on different things. He has a grown-up family now, and he spent a lot of time homeschooling. Whereas, when he designed Mage Knight and things like that, his kids were like, 2-3 years old. So he has a different life now. He works a lot with the digital team on making sure their digital apps are up to speed and up to spec. And they've recently finally launched the Codenames app, which is absolutely fantastic. So every time I see him, he always promises me that he's got another game. And he is still designing them, but I don't know. One of these days, hopefully, we will see another Vlaada Chvátil heavy game. But at the moment, yeah, it's there's been a few that I've seen bits of over the last 6-7 years, and I've gone, oh, is this the one? And then 2 years later, he's done nothing with it, and he said, oh no, I gave up on that one. And I'm like, oh. So yes, you're thinking the same as I am. When are we going to see it? Drone Explorer says, rate game mechanics. Well, I'll say mechanisms. Worker placement, roundel, deck building, dice rolling, and tiles. Well, certainly not dice rolling. I think dice rolling would be at the bottom of that list of mechanics for me. I do like worker placement. I also like deck building, but I am fussy with my deck building. I don't like the Ascension style deck building. I also don't like the Dominion style deck building where you have to play your entire hand. And if you don't play it, you have to discard it without any possibility of keeping cards from one turn to the other. So for me, a deck building game needs to have a way where you can keep cards from one round to another so that you can help build up the combos and things like that. Rondels is just another form of action selection. I do like it, but I'm not sure where I'd put it on the list. So worker placement and deck building, yes, they are two things that I very much like the most. Dice rolling definitely at the bottom of that list. Next question from Filippo. Are you going to cover the new Avalon, the Riven Vale? Yes. I don't think anybody asked me this yet, but I am going to cover it. And if you give me a minute, I will tell you exactly when I'm covering it, because I've booked it in for January. And let me just check my work diary. Work diary for January. Avalon, the Riven Vale playthrough video on Friday, the 17th of January. So yes, it's in there. I am due to cover it. Right, where's next? Your honest opinion on the new Cyclades. Keep, old, or get new? Don't know. I think I've played Cyclades once. I think. Maybe I haven't. But I don't know about the new version. So yeah, I vaguely remember that somebody told me there was a new version, but I can't help you with that one, I'm afraid. Another question from Jonathan. Follow up on expansions. Do you think publishers intentionally put out incomplete base games on crowdfunding? Would the same thing happen with retail games because of the economics of expansions? So, first question. Do I think that publishers intentionally put out incomplete base games on crowdfunding? No, I don't think they do. In fact, another one of the pet hates that I have is when publishers go onto Kickstarter with not just the base game, but with 5 expansions all thrown in. And again, I'm saying this as a personal opinion. Some of my clients, some of my best clients, people who I know really well and get on with really well, they do this because it is a valid marketing strategy. That is what works the best. Personally, I don't want to see that in a game. I want to see, here's a game. Here's the base game. And then if it does well and people like it, we'll release some expansions. But putting a base game on Kickstarter with 5 expansions all for sale at the same time. And as I say, I know from a financial reason why they do that. It is the most cost effective. But from a gamer, I don't want that. I just want a game. I just want the base game. I don't want all of the expansions to come at the same time. So anyway, that's not answering your question. That's just another of my pet peeves. I don't think publishers intentionally design a game and then take bits out of it. It has happened in the past, but I don't think it happens as much now as people think it does. There was a guy or a girl, I don't know who was leaving me a series of comments on my videos about a month ago, and they left me about 3 or 4 comments on my videos, and thankfully they've gone away. I didn't need to block them. I did warn them. I said, if you leave another comment, I am blocking you. But every comment they left on my video was just simply a one-liner that said, cut content scam. And eventually I went, what? And I managed to speak to them and I managed to get out of them. And they were saying, oh, this is an absolute clear case where they have removed content from the game and are selling it extra in order to force you to spend money, right? And they were leaving it on, and whilst I agree that that is a bad thing when it happens, but I'm sorry, if you sell Voidfall and then you sell the Voidfall miniatures as an alternative, if you've got the money and you want the miniatures, then here you can buy the miniatures. That is not a cut content scam. That is, if you want to pay a bit more and have some nice looking miniatures, you can, but it's totally your option. No content has been cut from the game. So anyway, I ended up in a bit of a ranting argument with them, and I said, if you carry on leaving these nonsense comments on my videos, I will ban you from the channel, and I've not heard from them since. Has that answered the question? No, probably not. Do I think publishers intentionally put out incomplete base games on crowdfunding? No, I don't think they do. Would the same thing happen with retail games because of the economics of expansions? I think with retail games, we'd have a model more suited to what I'm talking about, where the game comes out and then maybe a year later we'll have an expansion. I personally think that's the way things should go, but that's not the way it goes with crowdfunding. Next question from Drone Explorer. Your opinion on the game Pest? I vaguely have heard of it, but that's it. Nothing more. Malachite, any plans to play Fromage? Nope. I've heard from a couple of people that it's quite good, but no plans for me to cover it on the channel. Jonathan is asking, was Vlaja the other most versatile designer you were thinking of? Yes. And the reason why I mentioned Martin and not Vlaja is Martin is still doing multiple games a year, whereas Vlaja is kind of not really doing anything at the moment. Next question, how to learn Lacerda games faster and how to teach those games to others? Well, first of all, how to teach those games to others. Send them the link to my videos before the game. If they refuse to watch them, refuse to play with them. It's as simple as that. I have a very strong opinion on people who find themselves being the one who bought the game is the one who needs to learn how to play the game and the one who needs to teach the game to others. That is wrong. That is completely wrong. You've bought the game, you've spent your money on buying the game, and you're going to learn the game ahead of time. The least everybody else can do is a little bit of homework and spend 45 to 60 minutes, watching my how to play video on the game. And if they say, oh, I don't have an hour free, fine. Get them to turn up and then press play on your laptop and watch the video at the start of the session, because it will take you just as long to teach them the game as it would me. And by you playing my video means that you are not in any danger of missing a rule or getting a rule wrong or anything like that. So that's the best way. It might sound a bit weird, but how to teach the game to others, literally laptop on the table, press play. And if anybody needs to pause because they didn't understand something, they put their hand up, press pause, and carry on later. How to learn his games faster is just by playing them. My recommendation, and this isn't just for Lacerda games, this is my recommendation with any games, is your first game is a learning game. Do not overthink your moves. When I hear horror stories of people saying, oh, we played our first game of On Mars the other day, it was 7 hours. That is because people were over-analysing every single decision they made. People have played Civolution for 8 hours, right? It's a 3-hour game, 3.5-hour game. But people spend 8 hours playing their first game of it. That's enough to put anybody off the game. So my life advice on learning games is your first game is a learning game. Just go into it. Don't worry too much about it. Be prepared to make loads of mistakes. Be prepared to lose. And just get that first game done and under your belt. And then play another one. It's much better to play 2 4-hour games of it than to sit there analysing every single decision you make because you want to make it the best decision ever and play an 8-hour game of it. Right, next question from Richard. Have I played Powerboats and Joyride, and do I have any thoughts on the situation that led to any perceived similarity? I haven't played Powerboats. I haven't played Joyride. I am aware of the situation. I've had a browse through the BGG thread, and I think there's been errors made on both sides. I think there was a particular... I think the initial post was probably not very well constructed and a little bit aggressive. And I think that it was a mistake for the publisher not to include the games which were clearly influenced along the way. Yeah, that's just how it is. And for those of you that's interested, if you Google it, there is a BGG thread, Powerboats and Joyride. I would try to avoid watching any videos on it because I've not watched any myself, but I've been told that a couple of people just kind of jumped on the bandwagon thinking, oh, there's a hot controversial topic, I'll make a video on this and it'll get loads and loads of views, without actually knowing very much about the situation. So do your own research, read the BGG thread, don't watch any videos with just somebody's opinion because that's just their opinion and they don't actually know what they're talking about. Next question from Drone Explorer. I've never played Terraforming Mars, Wingspan, Ark Nova or Pandemic. Which are the must and which can be skipped? I would strongly recommend playing all of those. You have listed 4 extremely good, extremely popular games. Now, Pandemic, I mean, personally, I would say that is my least favourite of those 4 because I find Pandemic is a little bit too swingy based on the cards. You can win or lose the game before you've even played it because of the order in which the cards come out in that deck. But Pandemic is one of those groundbreaking games that made cooperative games hugely popular. So I'd give it a go. I'm a Terraforming Mars person rather than Ark Nova. Both of them are very good games, but I would always choose to play Terraforming Mars. But if you like animals, play Ark Nova instead. And Wingspan, I think you've got to give credit for what Wingspan has done for the hobby. And I have only ever played the game once or twice, and I have never played the game physically. I've only ever played it on Board Game Arena. But again, it's a good game, so I would try all of those. Next question from John. If you have to choose only one game as your favourite, which one would it be and why? John's clearly not a follower of the channel. It would be Mage Knight. Mage Knight is still my #1 game of all time. So yeah, that's the answer to that question. Next question from Drone Explorer. Broken Meeple or Board Game Bollocks and why? Well, I'm friends with Luke Hector from the Broken Meeple, so it would have to be that one. I mean, the guy from the other channel, he does good videos, but both of them create content which can seem to come across as quite angry. Whilst there are some good points in there, sometimes those good points get clouded because they come across in a kind of ranty way. Personally, I'm not a big fan of swearing on videos. So obviously the name of the channel means that it is a channel where there is quite a lot of swearing on there. And that's just a personal preference thing. But that is somebody who has, for a relatively small channel, gets way more views than I do. So all credit to them for creating content which clearly people want to watch. And yeah, they get way more views and way more engagement than I do. But that's just how it is. I'm not going to go down that line of producing ranting videos where I shout and swear at the camera, whether you want it or not. Next question from Drone Explorer: Chelsea or Arsenal, Man U or Man C, Beckham or Lineker? I have no real interest in football, so easy question to answer. None of them. Next question from Rigura: I'm a web developer. Is there any tool you wish existed related to board games or board game collections? Not that I can think of. I think, we've already got Board Game Geek. We've already got, BG Stats. We've got things like that. I can't think of any tool which would make my life easier. One thing that I have found is a problem for me is cataloguing my games, cataloguing which ones are in which room, which boxes they're in, which games have been lent out to other people. But I'm sure the tools that we've got already do that. I know BGG, when you mark a game as in your collection, you can add some comments. So you could use your own BGG thing to, put comments in and stuff like that. But no, offhand, I can't think of any tool that I wish existed. Next question from Jim: haven't seen your thoughts on Suchi's Rasafa. Have you played it? And if so, would love your opinions. Interesting question, Jim. So I came back from Essen with approximately 30 new games to cover. I put a poll up on my Patreon channel for my Patreon supporters to vote on which games they wanted to see and in which order. And I can tell you now, we're just going to have a 1 minute detour while I'm going to get that list up, because I have those votes in a spreadsheet. If I can find them. They are here. Right. So the game that people voted on that they wanted to see the most was Daitoshi. So I've covered that one. Then they wanted to see Beyond the Horizon. So I've covered that one. Menefa, covered that one as well. Saltfjord also had loads of votes. So I've covered that one as well. The next one that they wanted me to cover was Anno 1800 with the expansion, which has been covered. These are all on the channel now if you want to go and watch them. And then the next one was Galaxy Postman, which has been covered. The next one was Canal, which has been covered. So games which haven't yet been covered, which I brought back from Essen, are Fishing, which is a little small card game from Friedman Freeze, Seven Empires, Stressbotics, Pirates of Maracaibo with the expansion, Evenfall with the expansion, Unfathomable with the expansion, which technically I didn't bring back from Essen, but I did get sent it the week before Essen, Caracas, AI 100% Human, Power Grid Outpost, League of Six, Free Ride USA, Stevens, Star Wars deck building game The Clone Wars, Flatiron, Tower Up, Forest Chopper with both expansions, and Rasafa. So they are all of the games which I have yet to cover on the channel, which I want to cover on the channel. I am doing them in roughly the order in which they were voted upon, but when I put the vote up, I forgot to include Rasafa. So although Rasafa is on my list of games that I need to cover, it didn't get any votes because I didn't actually put it up there. I forgot. So I've got to try and guess as to when it goes up there. But I will be honest with you. I will be absolutely honest with you. And bear in mind, I have an extremely good relationship, not just with the publisher, but with Vladimir Suhi and his wife. It's him and his wife who run the publishing company. I have a personal and professional relationship with them that goes back over 10 years. I've heard nothing good about Rasafa. Everybody that I know that has played it, and I mean everybody that I know who has played it, has said, it's all right. So I'm not looking forward to playing it. I expect it to be I'll play it and then it will go. So you got to think, when I've been banging on for the last 2 hours about how time is so precious and that I don't have enough time to do all of these great things and play all of these great games, I'm not motivated whatsoever. I'm going to do it because they gave me a review copy of the game and it will get played and I will give my thoughts on it, but I'm going into it with very little motivation based on everything that I've heard about it. If you have played the game and you like it, then let me know, because you might be the only person that I know that has actually played it and liked it. Right, next question, and we're close to the end. Have we caught up? We've caught up because there's been a lot of quick fire questions. So Walt says, Galactic Cruise hit top 10 for 2025. at the end of the year with influencers or yourself? I'm not quite sure what that question means. Galactic Cruise hit the top 10 for 2020. Okay, so there is obviously a list somewhere with people's top 10 most anticipated games of 2025, and Galactic Cruise is in there, and quite rightly. It should absolutely be in there. And we're probably going to see those videos start to appear now or in January. There will be people out there, other content creators, doing their top 10 most anticipated games of 2025. I don't make those videos because A, I'm not aware of most of the games that are coming out in 2025, and B, doing so would be unfair on all of the publishers that haven't announced their games for 2025 yet. So yeah, Galactic Cruise quite rightly should be up there in people's most anticipated games of 2025 because it's very, very good. And the last question, unless any more have sneaked in since is from I Like Binky. Have you ever tried attaching a board game rulebook to Copilot and asking it questions? I haven't. So Copilot is the Windows built-in thing. I've never used it. It did pop up when I installed Windows 11 and I straight away turned it off because I didn't want it. Yeah, I think Copilot is a Windows thing, but there's also other things. Tom Vassell from the Dice Tower did a video which basically said, oh, you don't need rulebooks anymore. I can't remember what the software was, but I have never done this yet. I've heard a number of other people who have done this. They've loaded their rulebooks into some kind of AI system. And if somebody can remember the name of the one that Tom Vassell recommended, let me know. I think it begins with an L, but maybe not. But I've never done it myself. If you have done it and it's worked for you, let me know. I'm the kind of person that likes to just, find it in the physical rulebook or Control F if I have the PDF or something like that. But yes. Okay, so we are going to wrap things up. If you have any final questions and I can fit them in before the end, ask them very quickly now. Paulina's asked one, but other than that, Notebook LM, that was it. I knew there was an L in it somewhere. Thank you very much, Asher's Disney Vault. So yeah, Tom Vassell recommended a piece of software called Notebook LM. I don't know, I've not tried it myself. So contest, just as a reminder, if you are listening to this as a podcast or you are watching this as a video, even if you're not watching live, you can enter the contest to win £50 worth of games vouchers from GamesLaw. And just as a reminder, £25 of that comes from GamesLaw themselves and £25 of that comes from me. All you need to do is click on the link in the description of this video, which Vicky will put in the chat in a minute. And you just need to put in the secret word, which is clocks or clock. Either clocks or clocks. And that's clock, the thing on the wall that tells the time, not the wooden thing that you wear on your feet. Good luck. I will be doing the draw the day of the next Q&A, which will be sometime around the middle of January. Right, so final questions before we go. Do I like Star Trek Frontiers? I have just ordered it. I could not find anything about it on the channel. Good question. Based on the fact that Mage Knight is my #1 favourite game of all time, and I am a Star Trek fan, and I have a good relationship with WizKids who publish both Mage Knight and Frontiers. And for those people who don't know, Star Trek Frontiers is a Star Trek re-implementation of Mage Knight. Paulina is asking, do I like it? And the answer is no, I do not like it. I would never, ever play it because I have Mage Knight. And I personally think that the theme does not work. I think that the Star Trek theme in the Mage Knight setting, I don't think it works. I find a very big thematic disconnect between the universe that I know, the IP that I know, and the mechanisms in the game. So yeah, for me, I will never play it. I tried it once, didn't like it, and was like, why would I ever play this instead of Mage Knight? So the final question for today is from Mike. The players on your channel are amazing. Is this definitely Mike or is this Pete in disguise? It might be Pete. The players on your channel are amazing. How often do you thank them for their time and effort? Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah. I hope I say thank you every time we play. And you might not know this, but the people who come round and play games with me here on the channel, I pay them. Now, that's not the reason why they come round. and every single one of them has said that they don't want being paid, but I insist. And the reason for that is, well, first of all, if it's a sponsored video, right? If I have been paid an amount of money from the publisher to create a playthrough video, and I cannot do that playthrough video without other people, then I feel it is morally wrong not to pay those other people some of my money. It's just wrong. You should do it. But also, if it's not a sponsored video, should I still pay them? Now, I pay them less, but I still like to pay them a bit. And the reason for that is, even if the video isn't being paid for by a publisher, it is still being paid for by my Patreon supporters. And again, this brings it nicely back to my Patreon supporters who give me a certain amount of money each month for me to do what I do. I can't do what I do without the other people. So although they are not a publisher sponsoring my videos, they are paying for the channel. They are paying to support me and to support me in doing what I do. And I can't do what I do without the other people. So I think it's fair, I think it's reasonable, and I think it's the right thing to do to pay the other people who come on the channel. And as I say, all of them have said, they don't want this and they didn't want it, but this has been happening now for 2 or 3 years. So yeah, that's what I do. So yeah, I thank them for their time and effort verbally, and obviously I value their friendships, but I also give them gaming rules points, which they then use to buy games or do other things. Right, we are all done for today. So thank you very much to everybody for all of your support this year. There will be some more content from me. In fact, this Friday I will be covering Dungeon Legends. It isn't quite the last live stream that I'm going to be doing this year, but I have Dungeon Legends, which is a playthrough of a game which is coming this Friday. Then I will be doing the vlog. I'm planning to film and edit the vlog on the 23rd. It will very likely go live on Christmas Day. The reason for that is I will film and edit it on the 23rd. I will get it uploaded. My Patreon supporters will get access to it on Christmas Eve. And I normally give them a day's access to it in case I've messed something up in the video. And then I will release it the day after. So it just so happens that it will be Christmas Day when I will be releasing my monthly video log for December. Then on the 27th, I have the top 10 games of 2024 with Derek from Kanji Studios. That will be a live stream. I also have another video planned in the afternoon, but I can't remember what it was. Oh no, I've got the meetup. I'm having a Patreon supporters virtual online meetup, which is happening on that day as well. But Dranda Games have contacted me and they want me to do one final playthrough for the year. So Simon from Dranda Games is coming over, and we haven't told anybody this yet, but this is happening on December the 30th. So December 30th, there will be a live playthrough on my channel, and I can't even remember what the name of the game is. I'm really sorry, Simon. Let's just have a look. It's a game that Dranda Games have got going on Kickstarter in January, and it is called, it's Lost Light. I did know the game. Is it Lost Light or Lost Luminara? They've changed it. Lost Lumina. Yeah, it used to be called Lost Light or Lost Light. They've changed the name of it. It's called Lost Lumina. And yeah, Simon's coming over and we're going to be doing that. That will be the last live stream of the year, because that's happening, I think, about 4 or 5 o'clock on December the 30th. So yeah, that is the rest of the videos planned for the year. So yeah, big thank you to everybody who's joined me today. Thank you very much for all your questions, and thank you for keeping us company. Thank you again to all of my Patreon supporters for making everything that I do possible. And I will see you next time. Cheers, everyone. Good night.